Well, hello, hello, my fine feathered friends. Great to be back with you. Although I'm not there physically, I'll be there with you in spirit form, in between your ears and inside of your head. I'm like that little voice inside that says, everything's going to be okay in the end. Don't worry about it. So, anyway, now that that's out of the way and everything's going to be fine, this is the 4th episode. Really glad I got to catch up with my buddy, Ben Smith. I've known Ben for about 20 years now. And although the physical distance has kept us apart for a big chunk of those years, a big flank of time, we are happy to be hanging out in this new format of Zooming, just zooming around. It's funny that we're actually doing this on Zoom and how stationary you are. So, food for thought. I want you to enjoy our talk here. We had a good time doing it. So, without further ado, Ben Smith.
All my friends till the very end. Thank you for the fun and the play. Until next time, I hope you all do fine. Live to see another day. My pals and my peers, throughout all the years, you've done so much and wished me well. My guides and my teachers, all the furry little
Hello.
creatures,
I
show
am
me how to ring my
I am talking to
bell.
my old buddy, like long time ago, buddy. He's not old. It's a long time old ago. Walter Benjamin Smith the third. Is this what you want? Should I be calling you that? Is that the right name? Sounds like a distant stallion.
Technically the second, but I dropped that.
That's gone.
You're the junior only if you're consecutive.
Is that
And
how it
I was
is?
named after my great grandfather. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you were named after your great grandfather, so it would have to have gone down the line for you to get to that point. Otherwise, because it's like the original name, then is there a junior after that, and then
Exactly. And then you're the third.
you're the third. Okay,
After that, and then the fourth.
the fourth. Wow, I wonder how
After that, fifth.
it's like Henry VIII. You start going down the chain there. You're gonna get to like the 20th. Walter Benjamin Smith the 33rd.
Henry 3000.
Oh my gosh, dude. So I mean, it's been great because we haven't talked in a long time, but this summer when I was back visiting back east, we got to have some mega talks, like
A lot of quarantine talks.
a lot of quarantine talks. It was great.
Quarantine talk.
It was so good to catch up. It made up for a lot of time.
Yeah,
we haven't.
it was great to finally have that extra time to.
Yeah.
One of the silver linings, having all this downtime.
Yes. I've been really noticing that. Like, when I spoke with our mutual bud Marty Zinkel on some of these past shows, that we've been able to really like connect more and deeper to people that we haven't necessarily been. You know, they're just their normal life has been hiccuped, and
Right.
it just gives more like one-on-one time. You know, which is great. I've been really digging that. Big benefit for all this.
Marty had a good take with the idea of just the new normal.
Yeah.
You know, that was his kind of philosophy. Make it your new normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's the new normal. Ooh, what's that?
That's my Marty Zinkel introduction sound. I meant to come in hot with a bunch of horses, and
Yeah.
I just had that one sad horse. I hit the wrong switch on my sample buttons.
Do you want to hit
but-
it again? Hit it again closer to the mic.
No, because now it's just too late. You don't want to have all these horses running out like right in the middle of the game. You know,
It's like a
it was a little pregame rally.
There's a little
supposed to be.
little rodeo here we got going on.
Yeah.
The Indy fight. What is the Kentucky Derby?
Kentucky Fried Derby.
Kentucky.
Sorry about that.
Oh
I got this thing at the health food store. The
yeah. What is that?
It's called Double Bubble Burpa-Cola.
No way.
And
Does it really say
man,
that?
is it good? Yeah. And then it says below that, it says this shit hits.
No, it doesn't. They can't say that. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's what it says.
I'm gonna have to send you a case of that.
I need a case of that. I want to get
Yeah.
hit with that ginseng bubble.
Double Bubble Burpa-Cola.
Chow wow bow wow. Where are you at right now? Like during all this, the quarantine time?
I'm in New Hampshire. I'm back on home court in Manchester, New Hampshire,
Yes.
as the locals call it, Manch Vegas.
Why do they call it that?
I was gonna say it's almost like a endearing term, but I think it's actually more self-effacing in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of sarcastic. Like you got Elm Street, which is the strip,
Elm Street.
and
Total Freddy Krueger zone.
Vegas. And there are a couple casinos. I don't know.
There's-
I gotta be honest. I don't know what the. I mean, it's a more recent. It's a kind of a trashy phrase. Like I know my grandmother hates it. Like she's like, oh, I hate when people call it Manch Vegas. You know,
Yeah.
like she's been here her whole life. It's kind of, you know, it's not like it's got some rich tradition behind it. But I don't know exactly how it came up, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting. Yeah, the roots of that one. So you're back there right now.
It's not that interesting. Although I guess people could get into Manchester. I always feel like it's a, you know, East Bumblefuck. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's in Howard Zinn's People's History of America.
Why?
I remember you reading that book.
I remember meeting him. Did you come with me to meet him?
I didn't, but I remember you went to that reading.
Yeah. He was.
And I remember when you had the book.
Yes.
I've confessedly never read it, but I know that there's a chapter that talks a lot about Manchester. It was big during the Industrial Revolution,
Uh-huh.
textile production. There's these massive mills. I mean, it was really kind of, at one point, almost the center point
Really?
of textile production. And first all women's labor strike happened here, which is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So a lot of history of progressive labor politics, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but like any American town now, it's like post-industrial fallout. Like all the mills were empty, and like, you know, city went through kind of a tough period, but you know, now it's bouncing back. Like now the mills are all,
Yeah.
you know, either like small startup tech companies or CrossFit gyms and shit like that.
There is so many CrossFit gyms like popping up out here too. They show up in like it usually is like an abandoned warehouse, and then all of a sudden it's like you're gonna pay $50 to go lift trash.
I know. I think they like that aesthetic. It's that industrial aesthetic. So they're like, there's probably some interesting metaphor that you could extract there. You'd need a sociologist.
Yeah.
You get Balzerini on the job.
I would love it if those CrossFit gyms, yeah, that's somebody.
It's something about like working the meat. Like they're working their meat flank. They're working their flanks like as if it's factory production. They need that industrial context to
Yeah.
work flank.
I mean, I would think it'd be more fun to like set up a situation in there where you make almost like a dinosaur kind of place, like for big kids, you know, like adults.
That'd be
like,
nice.
Yeah, where you're just rolling boulders and, you know.
Adult Chuck E. Cheese, basically.
Yeah, there's animatronic.
But you
like,
get ripped.
T-Rex. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally ripped. And then.
What's the food situation?
Oh, it'll be paleo stuff, right? It'd probably be like
Yeah.
coconut, a lot of coconut products, which I think is kind of funny with the paleo movement because I mean, it's super like coconut heavy, right? And
Yeah, that can't be good for you.
no, I don't think it to that level. And I just think like there must be something about like some paleo company that's doing like, um, like caveman brand or something that has just like a caveman in sunglasses and flip flops drinking like a, coconut with a straw. But it's like how many cavemen were just devouring coconuts and like out of during that time,
Right.
right? I mean, it's like probably the ones near the equator and like south.
In like Mesopotamia.
Yeah, Mesopotamian cavemen. So anyway, that's yeah. How do we get to that? The
Well,
CrossFit,
you're adult Chuck E. Cheese for workouts. Yeah,
the
CrossFit.
adult Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, you
Yes,
were asking about Manchester.
yes, yeah. We started up with that. Where you're at right now, and so you,
It's gorgeous up here right now. It's peak foliage.
oh, dude,
NH has they say I think I rated the second best foliage in the world at one point.
what?
Somewhere in
Second,
Japan got #1.
dude. That so
But it's
you're
like it just looks like a big bowl of fruity pebbles everywhere you go. You just want to pour cereal on the landscape.
Oh my gosh, that must be beautiful for like Halloween and
Oh, it's gorgeous, and Halloween's kicking up here. I mean, you've
oh,
got to, as much as you maybe politically don't want to like them, you got to appreciate all these kinds of like, hard-nosed, stubborn, sort of Carhartt wearing big bodies up here that just like don't want to believe the pandemic's real. And like, everything's just normal,
yes,
to
yes,
them. So
yeah,
it's absurd, but also like you do get, it's less of a full shutdown than elsewhere.
yeah, yeah. That's well, I mean, that's nice, and they're probably
You
using
got
their
the hay rides and
really, wow,
the
pumpkin
corn
patch,
mazes,
corn maze, haunted corn maze.
haunted houses.
I mean,
I didn't see a haunted corn maze.
do you think that they're making Halloween masks this year with a built-in like N95 filter?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, it seems
God,
like
you should market that.
should market that.
Somebody's thought of that
You
though.
could do like a mask like Dr. Giggles.
PPE
Just
masks.
have like a Dr. Giggles like bloody mask that's filtering out all the COVID.
Well, like my first question for marketing Halloween costumes would be this year, I mean, would be, what's the slutty coronavirus? It's always like you take the hot thing of that year and then make it slutty. Like I think the year Ebola hit, they even had like the slutty Ebola victim costume. Where it's just like it's like really, really scantily cut like medical clothes and deteriorating flesh accessories.
That'll probably happen then. Definitely mask involved, some kind of like, mask filter with just like, drooping with whatever, but
Scantily clad mask.
yeah, like maybe like a little like scantily clad lingerie mask, like a
You know what? We need to actually look to our Muslim brethren for this because, like, what do they do to stimulate visual attraction working around the burqa? So if you look maybe to how because I think there are strategies there.
yeah. I was just talking with this about this with someone and like how does that work? Yeah, how does that work? I mean, they've kind of been doing this for a long time, and for the women at least. I also thought early on during the early stages of like
Someone was telling me underneath those things, sometimes they're just wearing like, Prada G-strings with little diamonds and stuff. You just never know.
oh my gosh, that's incredible.
You can't judge a book by its package or whatever the kids say these days.
Right, right. Yeah, what did they say? You can't judge like a Kindle by its casing. That I heard. That was a rip roaring. That was a rip roaring good time. This is great. The one thing I thought that was kind of funny and early on with the pandemic is like anybody right now that has like a mask fetish. I mean, there's got to be somebody
Right.
that gets like really aroused by.
I was gonna say, is that, but then I really, it's like kind of a naive question because I guess like everything is a fetish, but
It's got to be, but what's that like for people?
they're psyched.
Yeah, they're psyched.
They're just walking around with boners like all the time. just excessive stimulation.
Too much. It's too much for them to handle. And so you went to Manchester. You got out of New York. You've been living in New York.
Yes.
You've been living in New York.
Escape New York.
Escape from New York, like Snake Plissken.
I listened to the first 2 episodes. See?
Yeah, you've done research. You've done research on it. You got out of there. Did it feel good to get out of there?
I think initially it did, and then it didn't, and now it does again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is kind of like to explicate is that initially getting out just felt literally kind of like escape mode when it was just getting real bad super quick.
Yeah.
And I still had work responsibilities right up until the end of March, and then got cut loose, and I was like, time for us to boogie. So we came up here, and then it kind of sunk in that like, oh fuck, we left the city, culture shock, and
yeah,
just being up here with all these kind of rubbernecks and Johnny Bag of Donuts and all these kind of knuckleheads, and but and also just I think missing New York is a tough place to live, but there's obviously a lot of great stuff there too, and I think you leave and immediately start to realize like all the good stuff and all the things you miss, and of course just the people. I mean, just having an immense community, rhizomatic communities there, and a lot of exciting people. So that felt abrupt, but then it was like kind of realizing how much better it would be here than there at that point, and feeling good about it again, settling and kind of getting adjusted, setting up a studio here, and just kind of getting into a slower rhythm.
Yeah.
And just not being able to witness these lubricated, cocaine, champagne, oyster fantasies that you see in the New York art scene. And that could be quite a thing to behold,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let me ask, going back, if we turn the clock back even further, like how you got started, how you landed there from New York, because I met you in Philadelphia around
2099 or 2000.
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah.
2000.
So what was happening for you then? Just a little history on your.
I was at that punk record store that had the blue paint on the outside.
Noise pollution.
Yeah,
right off South Street.
And you and I were talking about sub-incision.
Dude, yes.
And I was like, this guy is, making some deep cuts here. So, and then we got into the music thing.
For people that don't know too, the sub-incision, awesome East Bay punk band. Not super well known, I think, for people like...
It's just that one album, though.
Yeah, that one album.
As far as I know, they only put out 2.
Yeah, but the first
I don't know if there was anything else. The second one's garbage, but the first one is one of the best punk rock albums ever made, easily.
Yeah, people need to listen to that.
If not the best, it might be the best punk rock album ever made.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
I mean, I think a lot of people are going to say The Clash, but at this point,
I don't count The Clash in that way. Like,
it's a frustrating answer. I mean, I hear the words Clash, and I just think of it playing, gently at volume level 2 behind Robert Downey Jr. while he chews out Gwyneth Paltrow for selling off his Barnett Newman in his fucking hybrid workspace garage where he's drinking his green juices and fucking cappuccinos. Come on.
Well, just to say with this, it's like, I really think there needs to be like the first wave punk, whatever that is, like Ramones, Clash, Sex Pistols, and then looking into more of, Sub-Incision would probably be classified as like a third wave punk band if we want to get technical, but like, yeah, I could see it being like up there, high up in third wave.
I just think probably if you take more of like a maybe a historical perspective and just because that album's so timeless too. There's just it holds up just as well now. I've been listening to it again. I've reunited with a lot of my old CDs.
Yeah.
And you know, talking
Anti-bark,
about having extra time, just digging through the vaults and finding cool old shit. And
anti-bark device.
oh my God, Airborne Ranger.
There we go. Just so some people can listen to those, look them up if they want.
That entire album though, cover to cover.
It's amazing. It's so good.
I just the last song's a little depressing. And I don't love it. I feel like it was a little bit
yeah.
emo to end it on that kind of like
Oh yeah.
macabre note, because so much of the album is just, I mean, as aggressive as they are, and they do get a bit political, but it's mostly just so fucking fun.
It is super fun.
You know,
super fun if you want to get
Trash Man.
Yeah, Trash Man. Oh man, people gotta listen to this. So I saw you at Noise Pollution. We were there, and then at that point you were
I think it was just the perfect nexus of, you know, art and music for us. You know, you were studying art and making music,
mm-hmm.
and like, you know, I was just coming out of being in bands and segueing into, you know, trying to make art more seriously. And you know, what a time.
You were going to PAFA.
I try to tell people about that time, and it's hard to describe something that's more of an atmosphere.
Well, there was and I want to get back to hearing about your, like, some of your art training, but there was this thing of like, I thought about this more, like, obviously we're nostalgic for these periods of time, our like freedom years and things like that, but it's also more like that was really pre-internet. And maybe some of the last moments of, well, internet was out, but it was junky. It was like GeoCities and, you know, AOL and stuff. And
let's just say none of us had it. I mean, you were, it's funny because you've been so hesitant with technology, but you were the first one with the flip phone in the crew.
Yeah, it's funny. And then I stayed the longest with a flip phone up till this.
And you'd always leave that one black earplug in the ear.
That's right, man.
But that was analog life. You were putting together shows, and it was a lot of work.
Flyers.
You had to do all the legwork on the phone.
Yeah, phone, flyers, a phone, answering machine, and flyers. Nothing to promote things other than putting.
Well,
up
you
flyers.
And I made some great flyers back then. I mean, how fun was that?
Amazing. I mean, it was just so cool.
And with Dimitri, even when I came out to Arizona, we were making flyers with Dimitri. And Dimitri, and I ended up using this in my stand-up comedy routine back then, which was Dimitri laminated while we were making flyers, and he was just distracted as he was, and, you know, doing better things. He laminated $1 because he realized the lamination machine was $1 per laminate, and then he goes up to the guy and asks to pay for the laminate. He says $1, and he hands him the laminated $1. And I was like, that is the most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's perfect. I don't remember that, but it's
especially
awesome.
It's just something too about like just the ultra mundane of being in like a suburban Kinko's and then seeing some kind of magical realism on display like that.
Yeah, Kinko's. We lived in a lot of Kinko's for a lot of time. When I was going through a bunch of old flyers this summer, it was like, wow, I remember being in Kinko's at like 2 a.m, 24-hour Kinko's. We'd go up, we were just making flyers, cut and paste, old school, really fun.
So cool.
And so coming back around,
I got to ask you, let me interject though, because this makes me think, I mean, you were talking about pre-internet. What was that thing called? You remember the book you would keep with you back then? And everyone would buy these.
Slingshot?
Like a lot. It was like the punk rock kids made them. It was a silk screen cover, and it had the Slingshot.
Yeah, from Wooden Tooth in Philly. And there, dude.
So those were your little organizers, and you would cross out every line as you went along, and those things were great because you just really stuck with it through the year. So I remember, like, by the end of the year, you had this thing that was just, so belabored.
I had them. I still have some of those, and I also have like some little astrology ones that I was keeping for years. And
people thought you were crazy for those sometimes, even didn't they? Because you would write with those little micron pens.
I'd cross it out, and then I'd turn like the day or weeks into like little art pieces.
That's right. I remember loving those things.
Yeah.
It looked like I'm not really doing it justice, but it looked like maybe like ants had gotten at it or something.
Yeah, definitely. A little ant colony just like scuttled around and created these fun little pieces. But definitely, it's some OCD like list making.
Well, it's pre-internet is all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was getting back to your point. I think, all of all of the use of that for you in terms of like organizing exhibitions or organizing rock and roll shows, whatever it was, you needed to be writing down all the names, all the numbers,
Oh yeah.
and being in touch with just bands and managers and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
this is just a totally different thing.
Yeah. I think some of that, yeah, it was just had to, it was a necessity, just had to do it. And there was nothing else, no way to like keep things, yeah, I just had to keep track of everything pretty organized in that way.
I found my phone number list from Philly days
Wow.
when I was going through old stuff,
Oh,
over the summer. And
yeah.
it was in an old trunk, and it's hilarious to see. It was a computer printout, 3 pages with, like a couple hundred numbers maybe. And then I just started writing on the back of each sheet in pen every number after the printout, probably for the following 5 years or something. So then the
Wow.
backs are filled up with numbers. And
Man.
I remember I would sit there at my wooden desk with that green Sony phone in my bedroom, you know,
Just call people on the landline.
man, it's amazing that how quickly this stuff evolved. I mean, it's like, and it took 20 years for everyone to go from this belief in a kind of technocratic utopia that was on the horizon
Yeah.
to just, I think, a realization that this stuff is a complete fucking letdown.
Yeah, and just maybe the way that it's like it's come about, we need to find a little bit more like healthy balance with it rather than having it just take over completely. That's important. And so when I met you then, you were living in Center City and going to PAFA.
South Philly.
South Philly. Right.
Yeah.
South Philly.
Although real estate agents are probably now referring to that as Center City, right?
Probably, they're probably pushed the border. So what was it like for you doing your like your art training? Did you enjoy going to former art, like, it was a fairly prestigious art school?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, the history's super prestigious with the Academy. It's the first art school in the country.
It
I think a
is.
lot of people don't realize it's also the first art museum ever in America.
Really? What?
Yeah, so it's just absolutely loaded history.
Wow.
And bringing in Frank Furness as a custom architectural commission, and the grand idea of having the whole interior architecture read as this kind of like metaphor of nature, moving sort of from the ground up to the celestial bodies, and it's just really incredible. So it's loaded, but also I think these days it's sort of antiquated approach, and so like there was like 80 students in my class, and very tiny. And now I think they've been trying to combat that, and so now they've gotten accredited, and they're trying to be more like every other art school to get the admissions up. And so they got accredited. Now they weren't degree granting when I went, but now they're accredited and they can give out degrees. But it just kind of means they've watered down the program, sadly. Like now you've got all these liberal arts, you've got all kinds of sort of extras, like they added in photo and illustration and video and animation. And I think they kind of ruined everything that was interesting and unique about the place, where it was just 3 majors. It was painting, printmaking, and sculpture, and it was atelier style, so every class was basically 3 or 6 hours long. And it was just hardcore, a lot of discipline, everybody having a shared paradigm, which makes for like just such easy conversation. Everybody's sort of in it together. I think the paradigm of contemporary art education is the opposite, where it's this emphasis on what's this hot word is interdisciplinary, right? So it's like, let's get as many different voices and many different mediums, and you understand how it's maybe a good liberal impulse, but it's just, you end up not having a lot of just shared investment in, say, like a craft or something, where it's like, okay, let's help each other and co-learn. So
yeah,
And then I think what happens in undergrad, a lot of schools want to resolve both, that might look like, okay, let's do a little bit of the traditional via sort of like the modernist lens of Bauhaus, and then we'll get into the sort of horizontality and contemporary thing as well in the second 2 years or something. And this tends to breed this kind of pluralist malaise that's already plagued a generation. So it becomes chicken and egg, problem of education, problem of student. But what do I know? I mean, and it's not even that I'm necessarily arguing for the academy, because that's just one of many models. I think it's maybe more just even having some kind of verticality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to sound like I'm arguing for the academy, because if you're like, once you get like middle age and you're arguing for like academic artwork, you just will start to sound like a curmudgeon-y fascist.
That about sums it up. So that was but it sounds like a really interesting process of going through that training. Like, I was at University of the Arts. I never graduated there, even though I did a few years on and off. And it did seem like it was very just kind of spread out. Like, it was so much going on. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I'm sure people got good stuff out of it. I feel like it was about, I mean, a lot of these places, it's about making a lot of money. The schools are making a lot of money, and how much are people getting their crafts honed? But although I'm saying this, you have a really, I feel like your craft is honed, man. I mean, your art is amazing, and
thank you.
Your, at least from the period of time, seeing what you were doing with painting, in the acrylics world, it was just, big time.
I think I was very fortunate. I did 1 year at Pratt. I was in Brooklyn with my buddy Joe from high school. And that first year there, I kind of identified quickly, especially looking into the painting program, it's like these kids come out more, confused and fucked up than when they got in. And, and you just look at the quality of the work too, and like, maybe it's a little bit more ambitious in scale and in content than what you're going to be seeing, at the academy. But, I remember just going down to visit the academy with Colin, and because Colin was in New York at the time and we were friends, and he had told me about it. And, we got down there, we were just blown away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we went into a sophomore painting class and we're just like, man, these guys can, kill everybody at Pratt. So, it's just because they were actually learning something.
Yeah.
It was like a few years in a row of just working on the same sort of, methods and practices. So, I think that's probably becoming more rare in general, I would guess. I think it's also just kind of the way of the world, information age, and whatever other cliches. But
what was the time you
horizontality?
Yeah, right.
It's an ADD thing too. So like, even, I think we're all combating against this all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's this kind of
I mean, we're
this urge to just, spread out more, take on more, more information.
Oh God, so much
more data.
Yeah, we're just getting overloaded.
More money.
What was the time you had a you had some folks from, was it from school or somewhere, where they came to your apartment in West Philly and you dressed up? Remember, there was something about
Oh, you're thinking of the Fleischer-Ullman curators. Yeah, they came out to do a studio visit, and I had I was making animal costumes for the Make a Rising guys who were putting on those great plays.
Yeah, Make a Rising.
They had that enormous space for the stage. So I made the goat costume, which went over really well. Kind of stole the show of that production. You remember that massive, elaborate goat mask?
Yeah.
And so then it was like, oh, let's make some more. So I had just finished the bunny rabbit costume, and these guys had reached out. They were putting together an exhibition at Fleischer Ullman and asked to come out. And I think it was my last year at the academy, and I just kind of felt like, man, I'm young, I've got no experience, so it's just like throwing in a little extra something. But it was funny. I opened the door in this costume, and they looked so startled because they had come all the way out from Rittenhouse Square to West Philly, and I think it just really kind of startled them, like seeing this like man rabbit in the doorway. So I was like, they were like more scared than I anticipated. So I was like, I'll be right back. So I shut the door and ran up, took it off, and I came back down. And I was like, sorry, yeah, that was my roommate. Like he's kind of a weirdo. Come on into the studio, and they never actually asked about it. They just came in and they were very professional.
Oh man.
Love the oils.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the rabbit costume's tucked away like under the bed, and just push that under. Where's the roommate at? Ooh, that's spooky.
That's a little Halloween flavor.
Halloween flair for the show, because we're close.
I learned from episode 2 that you love Halloween.
I love Halloween.
I'm just
so
kidding.
Much.
I already knew that prior to episode 2.
You knew it, but it's I love it so much. I'm so excited for Halloween.
Well, you used to have the Dracula mobile. Oh. I mean, that was like Halloween 24/7.
All the time, man. I miss that car. I actually just found some photographs of it.
Dracula's sedan.
It was the for people that don't know, it's a 1984 Ford LTD, black with red interior, and just old cop car. Beautiful.
Thing was gorgeous.
I found some. I got so nostalgic for it. I found some old photos of me before I left to move out to Tucson, and then I started looking up old ads for it on like YouTube or whatever, and just seeing like the old, some of those old magazine prints of for the new car of the future, and beautiful interior, the old stereo, and oh gosh, that thing was amazing. So good.
So nice.
Just did not do well in extreme heat in Tucson. Yeah. It was not up for that, but amazing car.
I could see that. It probably had seen its day too at that point, but
yeah, it's probably like, almost well, it was 30 years old, 20 years old, 20 some years old 84, so that was it. But beautiful car. I wish I still had it though, and just at least like kept it. Instead, I gave it to Junk for Jesus or something.
Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing. Yeah, you could give away your cars, and I don't know what else. I guess other junk.
And you give it to the Lord?
The Lord takes it and bestows it upon other people that need it. Junk. I don't know what
amazing.
They would. I don't know. Maybe they'd strip it and then get some worth out of it like that if it didn't work.
It's weird that they would just call it junk, but I guess they're trying to get people to be open-minded about donating anything. Or
it's like give away your stuff because Jesus will take it for the needy, and we'll transmute it. Water to wine. We'll take your 1984
But I'm thinking like
LTD.
junk. Like I always if I'm going to drop clothing in the donation bin.
Yeah.
I'm always like, this shirt's like too fucked up, and like let's say it's like got paint all over it. I'm like, I'm not, this is too trashy to donate.
Yeah. If it's
like I don't want to give my junk to Jesus.
Right, not like that.
Like I'll give them some like mediocre shirts, but not like just terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
something a little nicer. The what was I going to ask? Oh, so back to you were in West Philly, then you started to, this is around when I left to go to Tucson. This is early 2000s. And so
you left, and then I started teaching at the academy. I was teaching at the museum, doing like continuing ed and doing kids programs, and that was great. And I was also working part-time at a scene.
Oh my gosh, a scene.
And then full time, I think when the academy thing would slow down, I switched over to full time.
I love this
But
scene so much. That's
those
the
were
market.
like my two best jobs. I don't even know why I left Philly. I mean, it was
Mm.
like the best apartment, best studio, best jobs,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like Jesus
You
Christ.
could have
What
you could have
was I
rode that to
thinking?
Valhalla.
You remember my friend Daryl downstairs?
Yeah,
Um, this dude who was a local Philly dude who was like in his 70s,
yeah.
black jazz musician dude, and his son, remember, was dating the property manager
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of our building, and then they were so cool, that whole family, and like everyone was named Daryl in that family. They had 7 Daryls in that family
That
between
goes
cousins,
that
uncles,
goes to
and
like the
the
Daryl the Eighth and
son and
stuff.
father.
Yeah.
And but Daryl would tell me, and he was like in his 70s and past, I think, his moment of feeling like his creative surge, and he was a musician, like I said, and he kept telling me Philly's a creative graveyard. He's like, there's windows in, but there's no windows out. He had all these things he would say to me, these little quips.
Mm.
And he's just like, you got to go somewhere else to get established, and then you can come back or whatever. But you leave, and then you feel like you just left a third world country. Like going from there to New York, it's like,
What was
you
that
feel like
like?
you just left Kathmandu.
What happened? I
And
mean,
I'm talking about the Bob Seger version of Kathmandu, not actual Kathmandu.
did it feel like it was really just a totally culture shock, or you were just like, wow, this is a whole another, I mean, next level of like in the art world, I guess. I mean, especially it's
Yeah, it's just everything, and I think it was all the same sort of disparity. Like whether it was participating in the art world through jobs and getting some exhibitions going, and yeah, it's just like totally different scale, and and it's the same thing. Just moving there, it's such an economic shift that you have to make so many more compromises, and just
yeah.
all these massive pendulum swings, because in Philly, I now understand, and we didn't have the phrase when we were there in the Y2Ks,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but it was we were hood rich.
That's
That's what I
what that's the
realized.
term.
I was hood rich. I mean, I was selling paintings, I was making money, and you know, and the bills were laughable.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
my combined studio apartment rent was hilarious. That's like fucking Manhattan panini money.
Oh man.
Um, you know, and what kind of situation where, like, think about a scene where with Master Parker as the head chef and kitchen manager as my boss, who like still calls me all the time and sends me cards, and
Really?
it's like you don't get that treatment in New York.
No. This is, and it's just
You
to
know,
say this to be clear, because a scene market cafe, amazing macrobiotic cafeteria style health food store, everything just incredible. It's changed since the many recent years, but
yeah.
it's like,
So Chef Parker went on to he went on to cook for a big hotel. He was doing like white glove service for
wow.
a major hotel, and it's funny because I think when he told me about it, it almost seemed like he was a little bit embarrassed. Like he was like, "Yeah, not doing the vegan cooking anymore." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's presumptive." Like wasn't assuming this 5-star hotel was like outputting tempeh gravy.
Macrobiotic lasagna.
Exactly. Oh, that was my
It was
favorite.
so good. Oh,
Oh my God.
me
There's
once.
certain
Me
there's certain
once.
dishes from there that I can still replicate, but that one, it's like, we used some of the tools from the bakery for that one. We had like the industrial mixer
Mm.
to make that vegan ricotta and stuff.
Oh,
And like I tried to make it a couple times, and it just wasn't the same. Whereas there's other recipes from a scene that I can just straight up replicate.
I need some of those.
Uh,
I need the tempeh
that one, it's like
onion.
you need the magic of that kitchen.
Yeah.
Um,
What a special spot.
oh, I'm telling you.
And you were
It
we
was out of control for me. I was like back there with just these multicultural mystics. Okay, like Saeed, who was a spiritual Muslim. You had Chef Parker, who, was who was raised by Korean Buddhists,
Oh, really?
even though he's half black, half Native American.
Oh, are you
But
serious?
his father died when he was really young, and his mother was friends with these Koreans who, were so close with the family that in a way they kind of adopted him, and it was a way for him to, have kind of like male role models around.
Dude,
And he calls these the kids of that family, he calls his brothers and sisters.
yeah.
They're all Korean, but yeah, that's where his whole background came from. That kind of in a way I think led him to macrobiotic cooking and the scene and everything.
I remember once
But,
coming.
I mean, it goes on and on, but you get it. The cast of characters back there
Yeah.
was incredible.
I remember
it was just incredible.
I remember once visiting you, and then like we were in the back room near the kitchen, and we were just all talking, and Parker just does a jump flip, standing jump flip, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and then he just was like, didn't even talk about it. It was just kind of like that was it. So that was the level of what was happening there, and if any of that was going into the food, it just
it was out of control.
Out of control. I remember you and I going a few times.
That guy, if you've ever been around someone that can like channel energies, I know you guys talk about this kind of thing a lot in Arizona, but
yeah,
that was definitely something I witnessed for sure.
Yeah, I could definitely verify that. And then there was times where you and I would just go and hang out, get a scene before you were working there, and
before, during, and after.
During, and after, we just get a little, we get a little nutty, and we would we'd chow down. And
such good food.
So good.
Oh my God.
So good.
I don't know who runs the kitchen now, though. I mean, I feel like there's no way it could be the same. I mean, before Parker, it was David Goodrick who had actually trained.
I remember him. Yes.
With some major French chefs, so he had this traditional European background.
Yeah, he was great. He thick glasses. British. He had thick glasses and yeah, he was awesome.
So he had just a level of professionalism back there that was I think unique for a place like that.
Yeah,
and it was kind of interesting where he would, I think he was combining some of his traditional cooking methods with the demands of the whole kind of vegan macrobiotic trend that was going on.
Gosh,
at a scene.
I love that.
And then Parker taking on after him and kind of I think shifting it a little bit again more towards his Eastern influences and bringing in things like umeboshi plums and the seaweeds and things like that, and kind of incorporating a little bit more of that stuff.
Oh, so good. So at that point you were like, this was a maybe referred to as a glory years in some way, like just like that was a it's a job where we have a job that we just love, and we're like, wow, that was right on. So doing that,
I mean, these it's funny because I think these things how do you say it, it's like you're in these moments and they don't look like as pretty as they do looking back, and maybe nostalgia puts a veneer on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe it's also just like when you're inside a situation, there's details that I think history or memory evades. Like, thinking back on it now, there's no reason now to be frustrated by like, the pay rate, but like, I was getting paid in peanuts there. So I'm sure like things like that made it feel sort of maybe less magical or more exploitative than
of course,
than fantasy oriented. But this is the nature of it. It's like there's the thing of like you just don't know the golden moments when you're in them.
I know. And then
I mean, I think about just, I'm glad you're doing this podcast because I think in a way, like the Bradford Trojan and Friends, right? The friends circle that emerged out of like those roughly 10 years in Philly was just so powerful a thing. Yeah. And just we were so rare and so lucky to have so many powerful creative minds interacting and sharing ideas and developing together at this one moment. It's just incredible.
I think so. I think it
You
was
know,
like a Renaissance time, and I know that other generations get to experience that and have those, but it did feel really special. Um, Again, just coming back to like it was really the internet was not really happening, so there was something very pure about just still having this like last wave going on before that tainted the well a little bit, and so yeah, like some of these people that we were talking about, like Maker Rising, Doctor Dog guys, the Teeth, these really great bands that I know.
you,
Me, sure, I'll and
Bradford Trojan and Traffic Jam.
Bradford, yeah, yeah. Um, these and
And
this is
but then I think the visual artists too.
yeah.
I mean, you know, well,
Hit me with some of them. Like I mean, you right? That's
I always think you could say me. I mean, I think, you know, I'd like to think that I was involved in some capacity. I might have been more influential discursively than visually, you know.
mm-hmm.
Um, but maybe the two collide. But I was thinking Ted Mark.
Ted Mark, yeah,
Ted Mark to me is someone who was so influential, you know, and just seemed like such a integral piece of the whole kind of thing.
Ted Mark being
You
the
know,
first drummer to Doctor Dog. Grew out in rural Pennsylvania and grew up there. Doctor, there it is. That's your
you can
puppy.
just keep talking over those. I'm just trying to.
That's your.
I'm dropping. I meant to drop more of these, but it gives it a little texture.
It's fun. It does. It gives that some. But he was he did yeah he was this he was this amazing artist and just an inspiration around all of us that we were talking about in the summer, a few of us, just this incredible force, you know, that brought so much like conceptuality and spirit to the game, you know, being in music and art, visual, just everything became enlivened and like animated with his worldview and what he was doing as an artist.
Totally. And I think in terms of, I mean, I was, you know, talking about the overlap of the visual and music, and I just feel like you nailed it with the word conceptual. I think, you know, he was, you know, so early on in terms of maybe a more conceptual approach to art making, and you just can see how much of an effect that had on the emergence of Dr. Dog. I think Dr. Dog trying to translate some of that energy into, you know, album production, and
Yeah.
and it maybe just gave them I think a little bit more of a kind of, you know, self-conscious approach that was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I guess that would have been probably like Psychedelic Swamp, you know.
Yeah. Right.
The original.
Yeah, he was there. Like I know Doug O'Donnell, Toby, and Scott were all a part of Psychedelic Swamp, but Ted definitely came in that period of time. I don't know if he's actually. I'm not sure if he's on Psychedelic Swamp at all, but I know he was there during live shows and performances. Like there was some of the early live things, like one of the early live Dr. Dog things where I was like playing in this bathroom at this house party, and we all put Vaseline on our faces and coffee grounds as a beard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that was Ted's idea to do. So, you know, and then it was like became the bathroom became percussion and, you know, all these sound effects. I think I just played the toilet or something. And you know, so Ted brought this amazing quality to all that. Yeah, whew, amazing guy. You were so I want to get back to this too with your artwork that then translated into a lot of album covers for bands. Can you talk about some of the bands that you worked with and did artwork?
Well, you know, I think the first one, you know, with the Philly crew that stood out was Toothbrush for Dr. Dog, you know, and Scott had been, you know, just actually buying antique postcards and just kind of, you know, put in a little bit of pizzazz on them and then throwing them in the case and write Dr. Dog with a little pen.
I have
and,
one of those.
He said,
yeah.
Right. So he said,
Yeah.
why don't we come up with something a little bit more substantial and a little bit more fully realized? So we talked about this idea of having, you know, a horizon line that would continue from the front to the back, you know, and then across the liner notes and even underneath the CD tray. So you just have this kind of unified 360 panorama if you look across all four, you know, panels.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And then the Figs had me do Palais, which was a double album. And then that came out on vinyl, and we actually even tinkered with the design and did a run of those with like a 3-color silk screen, which was really beautiful.
Man.
And then I did a few for them. I did Follow Gene, and we did, you know, I also did some, as I did for you guys and Raccoon and Dr. Dog and the Teeth, I did a bunch of flyers for them. And we did a couple t-shirts at the time of Palais. What else in those Philly days? National Eye. I did National Eye Roomful Alliance.
Oh, I didn't know that.
With the Doug chose, actually, it was really cool. He fell in love with this massive oil painting I had done. It was like 5 by 5 feet that we just, you know, crunched down to the, whatever it is, 3.5 by 3.5 CD booklet. Which looked great, I thought. And then, I did the full inside and out of that one. I know there were more. You should have sent me the questions so I could have like prepped my answer. I forget all this stuff now.
I remember, so the toothbrush, I mean, then you did later on for Flyers, but then you also did Galactic Federation of Love.
Thank you,
the Conspiracy Rock Band, In You, the EP. That
and we did some great flyers too. Shit, we did those sweatshirts that we printed together too. Do you remember those?
I still have one.
I think it was like a big frog, wasn't it?
I still have one, and actually, this Bikeus out here in Tucson, the like bike repair, real like cool cooperative bike place. One of the guys last year when I was fixing up one of my bikes, he's like, check it out, and he had the shirt, and it was, I think, framed up on the wall.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's there.
Oh, you should snag a picture of that.
I should, and I have an actual T-shirt that I still have in back east. I keep. I don't want it to like. I don't want to ruin it. I have like a few T-shirts, like the Teeth,
keep an archive.
And Dr. Dog, Galactic Federation.
You've got a Teeth T-shirt?
I do. Yeah, the squid.
Oh fuck me!
I know.
You saw that Raccoon one I texted you?
Yes, really great.
Size small.
So good. That
was that early 2000s look where all our clothes were just suctioned to our body.
Yeah. And even more now, it's like being out in the desert. It's the like humid, just like just pulls to your skin, becomes like a skin suit. Spider-Man.
But this was a size issue. I mean, you're not still wearing.
No, I'm not. We're not too
that tight, are you?
Overly. No, I'm doing like kind of comfortably fit. But the other one, you just did, which Galactic Federation of Love, that album, which was never officially released, which I just put up on. I got remastered, so I put up all the art for that stuff. That there's
great
versions, but yeah, and all this stuff too. You can see, at least album wise. I mean, you could see your artwork for flyers and things. I have I think a bunch on my Facebook I put up this summer, and then
you sent me that link. That was so great to see.
It just feels good, to have some really good.
I mean, it's amazing for me to look at because I was at 95% of those shows, so it's just kind of we're talking about walks down memory lane. That was a quite nice stroll to take looking at those.
Great shows back then, just in like some of my favorite live shows doing at the Khyber and the Fire in Philly, and just some of these, like when I was playing, and then Raccoon, the Teeth, early Dr. Dog, some of that, but it was just these really great shows, that was Saturday nights down there. Crazy. You'd have this stream of like the college kids, like, girls in high heels, drunk, falling around down,
Oh,
dudes
that's right.
broing out, like this swarm going down I forget, 3rd Street. And
Yeah,
then we'd just be like rocking out in the Khyber Pass, kind of like in the middle of all that. So there'd be this
that's
rock
right.
show.
It's amazing that club even was able to sustain itself. Now that you bring that up, I forgot that. I guess I was so kind of tunnel vision, like,
Yeah.
but you're right. There was that whole other world of, which was probably a much more lucrative market.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like how much
It's
money are
more
you
like
making from a rock show
the
at
bridge, the bridge and tunnel crowd
yeah.
doing their bottle service and everything.
I remember
The
once
thing about the Khyber that was amazing, this was like before the cigarette bans, and everybody would be smoking so
oh,
much.
oh,
I mean, it's just especially those shows, it just attracted that type, and everyone was smoking so much that I could actually light J's in there,
oh.
and it was so much cigarette smoke people wouldn't even notice. Like you could just sit at the bar and spark one and like order a Jack and Coke, and no, the bartender doesn't even
It
notice.
would be so thick, like just
Oh
dispersed
God.
within the
Remember
cigarette
getting
smoke.
home with like this doesn't happen anymore. Like you'd get home and you'd take off the t-shirt that would be like covered in sweat, and the sweat would just smell like wet tobacco.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was so rank. I would,
Oh
I
God.
was, I
You'd have
was,
to put that shirt in another room so you could sleep.
dude. I was so happy when when the ban went into effect. Because also like I'm not a cigarette smoker and so I'd be trying to sing, and like now thinking about it, it's just like this was insane. Trying to like
It's fucking insane. I
crazy,
mean,
but
there was a club, there was a couple clubs up here when I was growing up. Like Cafe Savoy was the spot for punk rock shows and
I've heard
hardcore
of
shows in
that. I've
Manchester. I
heard,
had told you
yeah.
about it.
Hmm.
And then there was another one that called Safe and Sound up in Rochester. And both these places, were windowless. And I mean, the facade of Cafe Savoy is glass, but you can't open them. It's like an old converted restaurant. Safe and Sound was straight up like an old automotive garage. Like it's just a fucking cemented in space. So you think about like in the winter, they're jacking the heat, there's zero ventilation, and you've got 200 kids all ripping butts.
Oh,
It's just insane.
that's not that's a bad
It's
it's a
insane.
bad
And you're in there for
experiment.
hours. Like, you watch 5 or 6 bands, you're there like fucking all night. And
Yeah, dude,
oh my God, it's
bad.
disgusting.
Yeah, pretty bad.
And you're listening to this fucking irate, insane music at the volume 12. Now I'm really going dad mode. I'm like, it's too loud. There's too many cigarettes. But like we fucking pour out of there in our triple XL t-shirts, like covered in fucking sweat, walk around, hang out, -10 New Hampshire weather, jump in the car, drive an hour back. It's just the things that we do is so insane.
It is, and I think the new things. At least I haven't been to many concerts in recent years, but doing like the new vaping. Vaping is the whole thing now, where it's like that's not
Right.
quite like they haven't figured out that
And
it's
it's
like
like you can get away with it.
yeah. And I remember
Yeah.
the one I think it was going to see in Tucson here, the War on Drugs. I know the bass player Dave Hartley,
Mhm.
great guy, and he was so I went there, and it was like this dude in front of us was doing this just vaping like his whole the whole concert. And first I came up with a name for him called like Pig Pen, just call him Vape Pen. And I was like, should we tell on him? Should we like get somebody to get him out of here? It's like weird, it's such a gray area, but yeah, it's just disgusting stuff. Yeah, so
Should we tell on him?
should we rat him out? Should we I didn't want to be a stool pigeon,
I hear you.
an old stoolie. Gotta be old stoolie like on him. So when you were so after doing all the art, then like where, I'm just curious right now, is there anywhere people can see your art? I mean, obviously we're in this new time in the
Well,
world.
my last exhibition was at a gallery called Interstate Projects, and you can check out their website and see that show.
Yeah.
And you know, I've got an Instagram account called Driving Dog Videos,
Which is
where I think I've posted like maybe 6 or 7 artwork related posts.
and a lot of
It's
them are,
mostly canines operating automobiles, but
it's
I still
literal.
haven't gotten a grip on that. You know, it's like I never did Facebook, so I feel like I'm just like sort of I'm a little bit like old man mode now that I jumped in on Instagram and kind of skipped a step. So
When you do post the dogs driving in the cars, though, that is a breath of fresh air.
it's probably needed now more than ever.
Oh
I should start
yeah.
getting back on it. I already was so checked out and lazy about it. And now it's like with everything else going on, it feels so tone deaf.
Yeah.
Like everyone's doing like there was like the Corona response on there, and then you had like the Black Lives Matter response. There's all this like really heavy, you know, weighty material. So it just felt tone deaf to be,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know, trying to do anything silly or
Yeah.
adorable or,
Right.
you know,
But it's also really
or
good.
even like, you know, what can you do really?
Well,
I
it's
mean,
also
I
important.
feel like a lot of people checked out
Yeah.
on those platforms. Didn't it seem like it?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I think it's very. I think we really need to have clowns as well. You know, that's like an important part of a lot of cultures is having the clown and the jester. We
Totally.
think of it as kind of like, oh, it's just silly. It's like, Barnum and Bailey or like the silly
Right.
Joker or something. But it's like they were revered in societies to bring to light.
Well, what's a good example? What's a productive example for you of a kind of clown like that?
Oh, I mean, if just off the top of my head, really is like a Charlie Chaplin
Mm-hmm.
and some of the things that he did bring to light in the world as far as injustice and like the great dictator, um, doing it in this humorous way of like talking about these injustices in this fun-hearted way. So as far as like going back in time and history, I'm sure there were. I'm sure there was cases of that, and
I mean, when you said it, I was thinking of the court jester, maybe,
mhm, yeah,
or
yeah. It's like a reflection for the people in charge, right? In that sense, like I'm sure the court jester would come and they would beep,
that's
beep.
the clown horn.
That's great.
That's our audio analogy for the
That's it
jester.
though. They would show the people in charge how kind of absurd things were, and would hopefully bring some light to the situation, and would bring some
The
kind of
only problem with
awareness.
the jester example is just that there's got to be a better example.
There's one,
Because the
yeah,
one problem with the jester is just obviously that it's like, I mean, when I think about the jester as an actual person, like his life probably sucked, right? Like he's basically like a slave of the king, I think. I don't know if he's just a slave or an indentured servant, but he's clearly oppressed, and his job is to just get laughed at and do dumbass shit. I mean, that guy
right.
was probably not psyched at the end of the night.
Well, the thing is, I think of like an example that I heard recently in recent years is the Koshari. There were a Pueblo Indian, and they were these the clowns that would come in and make make light of these I think some heavy things that were happening in the tribes and
Oh
um,
my God, it's the Bad News Breakers.
yeah, the Bad News Breakers.
Oh, I can't believe you're missing my first Mr. Show reference.
Yes. Oh my gosh, how did I got it? Yeah, I was on delay there.
They get the adorable kids, remember? And they're like,
Yes. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's our modern way of doing it, right? That's like the Mr. Show,
what
and
do the girls say to the guy in the hospital bed?
I think we should say there was the two twins,
You're not gonna make
you're
it,
not gonna
or
make
something like
it. Well, thank you.
that.
That's such a good skit. The Bad News Breakers. Yeah.
I know. I mean, this isn't a clown, but I mean, I think it's comparable. As you know, this this, I forget what culture this gets translated out of, but the, you know, if it's Peruvian or it might be down near you guys, but it's one of the shamanic tribes that had this saying that that loosely gets translated to English as the cosmic giggle.
Uh-huh.
And
Mm-hmm.
you know, as I remember reading, this was kind of an idea of, it's almost Kierkegaardian. It's this idea of sort of like laughing with the absurdity of faith, you know, like embracing the absurdity of a kind of a spiritual endeavor. Like, you know, you incorporate a level of absurdity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Into your faith practice.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. I mean, that to me seems like the clown, you know, if we look at that. I mean, we have such a, I guess the word, it's kind of, we're very, we get an image when we say clown. I guess I'm using like,
well, isn't it funny? They're supposed to be levity, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I understand it, but how did they so quickly become symbols of like, you know, just suicidal sadness or like murderous horror movie iconography?
Yeah, that's
it
weird.
sort of goes one direction or the other.
Yeah, you're right. It's weird. That's a weird
They're
one.
either killing themselves or they're killing other people, which doesn't seem like that much levity.
No, it doesn't. That's been like it seems like a bastardized Western version of this like really cool old tradition, you know, that would, so I mean, I guess we should reclaim it, you know, because yeah, it's like, it's not killer clowns from outer space or Pennywise from It. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. So the ways of bringing that kind of lightheartedness into this climate nowadays is important, and how to do that in a way that is still respectful, right? Because I think there is also this thing that happened of like humor and comedy back in, like, we watched There's Something About Mary a few months ago. I haven't seen that in decades. I think you and I might have talked about this too, and it's pretty offensive. It's like, it's great.
What part?
There's just a lot of stuff in there that's like, I don't think would fly
nowadays.
Oh, right. Now, you know,
of course.
But there is humor that still stands. Like, I think the Mr. Show humor is like very appropriate. And
some of that might not fly either these days.
I mean,
though.
Maybe not, but I think it's still
I'd have to go back and look at it.
I think it's still a pretty good commentary on a lot of things going on.
Oh, totally. I mean, look, you know, you're not going to have to convince me that the repressive sort of impulse is equally dangerous to the release. I mean, you know, we could probably pull in some Freudian scholars for our next episode.
Yeah.
And grill the shit out of them on this topic. But, you know, it's tricky, man. Like, I just watched the Bill Burr monologue that was like, I'm so late on culture now that I'm up here in New Hampshire. It was like, I think it was like 2 weeks ago when everyone was, you know, writing about how offensive it was. I saw some of the
I haven't seen
responses. So I was like, I want to actually see this. And the thing to me, like, you know, regardless of what was offensive or even the content, it's just, there's just something, even his approach to like, I'm not going to take either side. I'm just going to make fun of everybody.
Uh-huh.
Even that starts to feel like this sided, vectored, just completely polluted thing, you know?
Maybe a little like nihilistic feeling.
Yeah, or it's kind of funny because he's like, you know, he's sort of like, you know, I'm going to make fun of the mask people. I'm going to make fun of the no mask people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I think his kind of thing is like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to get lost on him, but I don't know. I don't even know how to articulate it, but it's something tragic about like watching this like alpha white male bark about the alpha white males and the victims. And you're like, you're just another problem in the lineup of these dominoes that just knock each other over.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm bringing it up. My inability to articulate it is the thing I'm talking about, which is just to say that I think there is a certain impossibility to humor right now.
Yes.
You know, so like even these approaches of like a way out are themselves caught up in the problems still somehow.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
maybe there's just no way out. I mean, I feel it like it,
yeah.
you know, like I was saying with the post, like it does, there is something about the gravity of this moment, you know, where it was hilarious when you called me back in June and you were like, we're going to drive across country through race riots and global bio meltdown. And like your description was fucking hilarious. It sounded like one of the Kurt Russell movies you and Marty detailed, you know? And it's like, but it's this gravity of this thing we're living through.
Yeah.
That I think, you know, it does make humor challenging.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's true. It's
what's the way out? Like, is it to just completely sidestep the issues altogether? Is it more valuable to lampoon them? You know, like that's the Lenny Bruce approach, right? Like take the word that's a trigger and just you know, use it, abuse it, and wear it out until it no longer has the efficacy of signification that, you know, and that it doesn't deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. Really. How?
Well, you know, you mentioned humor, and I think you know, being on this podcast with you now, it's something that's been so important to both of us, and I think it's probably, you know, like it's funny because we're talking around the themes of like that interplay of art and music, but it maybe actually is humor for you and me that is like kind of the key connective tissue.
Yeah.
You know, and even for all those guys, it's funny when I first met, you know, everybody when they were still in Westchester, you and I drove out and arrived at the Pirate House and they were all watching Mr. Show. They had those fucking like movie theater style couches like in rows. Right. And everyone was like dedicated to this shootout VHS tape playing on a shitty box TV. I was like, what the fuck is going on in here? Are these guys in school right now?
Dude.
Just studying Mustard A&A's.
Oh man. I mean, it did feel like that. It was like, here's this gold that you just got. Because it was like bootleg tapes. They weren't released. It was just like dubbed VHS. And
it's also like 8 dudes just playing them all the time.
Exactly. We're just going through it round. I mean, I watched so many of those. Oh, God. Yeah. So it's true. It's like that is a big common denominator here with all of you and me and a lot of people I know. It's just, I mean, I guess it's super important, you know, it's a very important thing. And so how to do that now? It's like how to bring levity and absurdity to the situation. I don't know if it's such a like targeting very specific people and I don't know, maybe it's like bringing the scope out a little bit bigger into like geographic time, into thinking like this is funny with the cosmic giggle you talked about. Like this is kind of in a big picture kind of silly how this is going down in a very dualistic way, because I don't want to diminish that there's suffering going on and you know, injustices, but it's just to like zip back and just see this, like, what's the word in yoga word, lila, this dance of kind of light-heartedness, the dance of the cosmos, and just being able to kind of see this as something a little bigger. And I'm saying that, and it might come across as being a little privileged, but it's also like I hear that come up at time and time again when I even look at people in more like poorer countries and impoverished places. Like they can find humor in that, and
for sure.
So that's just, hey, if they can do it, and just in a way that's different, where it's not just like necessarily slapstick, but there's something just kind of like, this is an absurd reality that we're in here in 3D time. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. More to come.
We ended on that note.
Yeah, more to come on that. So
I don't know. We don't want to end it like the sub incision and album ends.
we're not going to do the
Um,
sub-incision ending.
yeah, we can't do the fatalistic ending.
What
Let's do a Scooby Doo ending.
let's do yeah, who's the masked?
You
Wow,
ready?
that's great.
Did that come through
That
good?
came through great. That was the best one yet.
I really wish I could link this up somehow to your computer so it's going through clean,
I
like it's
know.
getting mediated by my mic, but
That's something that I can work on. I can work on
we'll
for
fix
future
it up. We'll
shows.
fix it up. I mean, you could just fucking take off, man. You ever seen Private Parts?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like this stuff just starts happening by accident, you know?
Oh, I'm so
You
cautious though of
gotta
like
get Jackie the Joke Man.
I'm-
You know, I was thinking that Marty, like listening to him do the first 2 episodes, and I kept thinking like how Marty Zinkle is like the mascot of like the kind of Bradford Trojan ride anyway.
yeah.
He should be your Andy Richter.
Oh man.
Like get him in a nice starchy suit and have him on the side at a podium, you know, and he can just kind of be your wingman.
Well, we've talked actually, Marty. I think that's something for future is to get him in on some of these shows. It might not be with every guest, but definitely some, and have a little bit of that our cohort going. You know, so that's something I definitely, at least for sure, the three of us, we got to do that. We got to get into that,
That would be great. Yeah, I'll set Marty off.
and that'll happen sooner than later for sure.
Put some hot coals under his ass and get him moving.
Dude. Well, I just want to say it's been awesome talking. We got just for people right now to look. There was driving dog videos. That is an online presence for you. And
I had a website, but I took it down just because it was such a pain in the ass to have to keep updating it, and
yeah, it's a lot.
it's also like I don't feel like I wanted to be doing that work every time I was working. It's like like when you're doing that stuff, it's just something so different than
Yeah,
making a painting or it's like this kind of left brain thing that I just didn't want to really be doing. So
I get it.
maybe I'm too puritanical.
Well, it's think about people that want to see what you've done and what you're doing.
I know. I need to hire, if there's
Get
any
someone.
listeners.
Yeah,
If there's any listeners that are like, really good at just like websites and just different kinds of computer stuff like that.
yeah.
You gotta speak up.
And if you're on the barter system, Ben would love that too. For
I'll trade you a clown horn for the site. Or painting.
I love it.
You say a painting or painting?
Oh, a painting.
And I'll trade you an art.
An art. I'll give you an art.
Art.
A art.
I'll give you a art.
Oh man. Well, we got more to catch
A
up
shard.
on. We got more to catch up on. I'll
Yeah, can I just say for next episode, I really liked you and Marty doing movie rundowns, and I thought it'd be great if you and I could do a take on the Burbs.
I've loved that. I love it. Well, so listen, let's do that. We're gonna do it. For now, let's just say until next time.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Really good to talk to you.
Great talking to you.
All right, man. Well, that was really fun. That was pretty funny. Ben is a very funny guy. And although I wasn't cracking up as much on certain times that he was letting loose there, because I was more focused, I'm still trying to figure out technical stuff on the show and getting all that dialed in. Listening back, it's hilarious, man. Ben is a hoot. He is a hootie without the blowfish. Great guy. Amazing artist. Let's get him a website. Come on, people. We got to get that going. He needs that. It's been long overdue for his work. I mean, you can see it in just some areas here. I want to post that on the metadata is what it's called on the podcast info, because then you can just see some examples of the album art that he's done. I love it. I love it. We're so happy that afterwards we decided to do another one. So that'll be the next episode. And I think we're going to really hone it in a little bit more with some of what we were talking about. I had a really great time. Awesome to be here with you. In your time, in spirit, not physically. It's not like I'm right behind you right now. See ya.
They all